Hello, my friend. My name is Dr. Robert Ellis. After more than 40 years in medicine, I've walked alongside thousands of patients in their later years. Fathers and mothers, grandfathers and grandmothers, people who once carried the weight of their families, their communities, their lives. And now, as age makes its quiet entrance, they begin to understand something simple yet profound. That nothing is more precious than the ability to stand up on your own, to take steady steps with your own legs, to walk out the door without needing a hand, to make your own tea, go to the market on your own, or simply stroll through the afternoon sun with your grandchild by your side. I believe that if you are listening to this today, it's likely that you too have walked through many seasons of life. There may have been times when you hiked through mountains, carried groceries without effort, or held your child's hand on the way to school. And yet now you may find that your steps are slower, your back slightly curved, your balance not quite what it used to be. This is the quiet reality that many of us begin to face, not because we are weak, but simply because time moves forward, and with it, our bodies begin to change in ways we don't always expect. Statistics show that every year, 1 in 4 adults over the age of 65 suffers a fall. These falls are not merely bruises or temporary setbacks. They are often silent messengers, warning us that our muscles are losing strength, that our reflexes are fading, and that our bones are no longer as reliable as they once were. One fall at this stage of life can lead to weeks in the hospital, months of recovery, and sometimes a permanent loss of independence. I have seen this firsthand. Elders who once lived with dignity and freedom, suddenly dependent on walkers, on others, or on fear itself, after a single misstep in the bathroom or on the stairs. And when I look into their eyes, I often see something deeper than pain. I see regret. Regret that they hadn't known sooner. Regret that no one had told them how preventable it could have been. That is why I'm here today, not as a distant doctor in a white coat, but as someone who has lived long enough to know the value of prevention, the gift of knowledge, and the quiet power of doing one simple thing every day that can change the course of your life. And the most surprising part? This isn't about expensive medications or complicated procedures. It's about something humble, something many overlook, something as small as a single nutrient, vitamin D, the silent guardian of your muscles, your balance, your bones, and perhaps most importantly, your independence as you age. You see, when we think of vitamin D, most of us immediately think of bones, and that's true. Vitamin D plays a vital role in helping your body absorb calcium, which keeps your bones strong. But there's something even more important that most people overlook. Vitamin D is not just about your bones. It's about your muscles, too. It's about the power in your legs when you rise from a chair, the stability in your steps when you walk through the garden, the balance that keeps you from falling when no one else is there to catch you. And here's the truth that's both shocking and urgent. More than 60% of older adults are deficient in vitamin D. Not because they did anything wrong, but because aging itself makes it harder for the skin to convert sunlight into this essential vitamin. Our diets become simpler, our time outdoors becomes less frequent, and slowly, quietly, our reserves of this critical nutrient begin to run low. When vitamin D levels drop, the body begins to speak. Some feel it in the legs, a heaviness, a weakness, a sense of being unsteady. Others feel it in their bones, aching in the lower back, knees, or hips. Some find that wounds take longer to heal, that their energy fades more quickly, that leg cramps or nighttime spasms interrupt their rest. And often, these symptoms are dismissed as simply old age. But they are not just the effects of time. They are warning signs. Whispers from the body, asking for help. The good news is help is simple. Restoring vitamin D is not only possible, it's incredibly effective. Studies have shown that older adults who take vitamin D supplements reduce their risk of falling by up to 23%. They walk faster, they climb stairs more easily, their muscles grow stronger, their confidence returns, and perhaps most importantly, they begin to trust their bodies again. So what can you do? First, let the sunlight touch your skin. Just 20 to 30 minutes in the morning or midday sun a few times a week can make a world of difference, especially if your sleeves are rolled up and your face uncovered. Second, eat foods rich in vitamin D. Fatty fish like salmon and mackerel, egg yolks, fortified dairy products, even sun-exposed mushrooms if you're on a plant-based diet. And third, take a vitamin D3 supplement, ideally with magnesium, which helps your body absorb it more fully. For most adults over 70, a daily intake of 800 to 2,200 IU is considered both safe and beneficial. And don't expect miracles overnight. Like all good things, the healing happens gradually. After 2 weeks, you may notice fewer cramps. After a month, your legs may feel steadier, your balance sharper. And after 3 months, according to research, you may see a 31% reduction in falls, a 35% improvement in muscle strength, and a 40% decrease in the risk of fracture. But more than any number, what you gain is something deeper. The ability to keep moving, to keep doing the little things that make life worth living, to walk into a room without fear, to stand without pain, to choose what you want to do, not what your body limits you to do. When we talk about aging, we often focus on what is lost: strength, speed, sharpness. But I've come to believe that aging is not just about loss. It is, in many ways, about returning. Returning to what truly matters. In our younger years, we rushed through life, always chasing something just beyond the horizon. But in our later years, we are given a quieter invitation to come back to the body, to nourish it, to listen closely, and to walk this stage of life with more care and wisdom. That is why something as simple as a vitamin should not be dismissed. We live in a time where solutions are often loud and dramatic. Surgery, medication, complex therapies. But some of the most powerful changes come not through force, but through consistency. Through giving your body what it has been quietly asking for all along. Vitamin D is not a magic cure, but it is a foundation, one of the invisible building blocks that holds you up. You may not notice its absence right away, but your body does. And when you begin to replenish it day by day, something begins to shift, not just physically, but emotionally. Because when you feel strong again, even just a little, your mind becomes more hopeful, your spirit lifts. You begin to imagine doing things you thought were behind you. Maybe it's planting again in your garden. Maybe it's climbing those stairs without holding the rail. Maybe it's walking into the market by yourself, holding your head a little higher. These moments, though small on the outside, are giant victories on the inside. They remind you that aging does not mean giving up. It means reclaiming your strength in new ways. And I say this not as theory, but from what I've seen. From the men and women who've sat in my office over the years, who started small, who took one step, who drank the milk they never liked as a child, who sat in the sunlight with a book on their lap, who took their supplements quietly each morning while the kettle boiled. And little by little, their lives opened again. They didn't reverse the clock, but they slowed it down just enough to walk with it, rather than be chased by it. Over the decades, I've met so many souls whose stories remain etched in my memory, not because of the medicine, but because of the quiet strength they showed when faced with decline, and the dignity they reclaimed when given just a bit of guidance and support. I remember Mrs. Langston, 82 years old, widowed, fiercely independent. She lived alone in a little house at the edge of town, kept her garden tidy, and made the best apple pie I've ever tasted. But one winter, she slipped on her porch while checking the mail. A fractured hip, weeks of rehabilitation, and suddenly she found herself afraid, not of pain, but of depending on others. I visited her during her recovery, and we had long talks. She told me her real fear wasn't falling again. It was not being able to return home. That was when we tested her vitamin D, severely deficient. We started a regimen, a simple one: supplements daily, fortified milk, gentle time in the sun, and strength exercises under supervision. 3 months later, she walked into my office with a cane, not out of necessity, but habit. She was smiling again. "I didn't think I'd ever water my roses by myself again," she said. But she did. Then there was Mr. Alvarez, a retired piano teacher, 89, with fingers still nimble on the keys, but legs that had begun to betray him. He told me, "Doc, I can still play Beethoven, but I can't make it to the kitchen without feeling dizzy." His balance was deteriorating, and he feared becoming a burden to his daughter who had moved in to care for him. What struck me most was how embarrassed he felt, as if aging were a personal failure. We looked at his labs: low vitamin D, low magnesium. I explained how these things were not his fault, but they were fixable. He followed every instruction like it was sheet music. Over the next few months, his energy returned. He even resumed giving piano lessons to neighborhood kids from his living room. The last time I visited, I heard Chopin playing through the open window before I even knocked on the door. One of the hardest stories was Mrs. Lee, a gentle, quiet woman originally from Vietnam. She was 77 and her children lived overseas. She didn't complain of much, just fatigue and difficulty walking. She chalked it up to getting old. But I saw something in her posture, the way her feet shuffled just slightly, the way she gripped the arms of the chair when she stood. Tests showed she was profoundly vitamin D deficient. Her diet was light and she rarely went outdoors. With language barriers and loneliness, she'd slip through the cracks. Together, we built a simple plan. Vietnamese soups rich in bone broth and greens, daily sunlight in her garden, and once-weekly community walks. She began to smile more. One day, she told me, "I feel like my legs remember how to be young again." I never forgot that. These stories, they are not exceptions. They are reflections of what so many elders are experiencing, often in silence. They remind me that aging is not a problem to solve. It's a relationship to tend to, with our bodies, our habits, our inner spirit. And often the turning point comes not through dramatic intervention, but through small repeated acts of care. A supplement taken, a walk in the sun, a meal prepared with intention, a conversation that sparks hope. And then there was Mr. Bernard, 91 years old, a former postman, lean and cheerful, the kind of man who used to walk 5 miles a day without complaint. I met him when he was brought into the clinic after a second fall within 3 months. He said with a mixture of pride and quiet sorrow, "Doctor, I delivered letters through snowstorms for 40 years. Now I can't make it to the end of the driveway without feeling like my legs might give out." His voice cracked just a little when he said it, not because of the pain, but because of what it meant. That sense of losing command over one's own body. We ran tests. His vitamin D levels were critically low. He hadn't been outside much since his wife passed. Meals had become simpler, smaller, tea, toast, maybe a bit of canned soup. I told him gently, "This isn't just about bones. This is about keeping you upright, keeping you free." We started slow. Warm sunlight on his porch in the morning, cod liver oil capsules with breakfast, grilled sardines once a week like his wife used to make. He kept a little notebook where he'd track his balance each day. "Less wobbly today," he wrote once. By month 3, he was walking a full block with a walking stick, waving at neighbors, stopping for short chats. He had, in his words, reclaimed his rhythm. Some cases stay with you not for their success, but for their quiet heartbreak. Mrs. Eliza, a soft-spoken widow who came to me too late, already bedridden from a hip fracture, her spirit dimmed not by the injury but by the isolation that followed. She told me she hadn't been out in the sun in years. Her diet was modest, mostly tea and biscuits. No one had ever mentioned vitamin D to her. No one told her the fatigue she felt wasn't just aging, it was preventable. Her story haunts me because it was a reminder that silence about nutrition, about prevention, about dignity is just as dangerous as disease. And so I speak now, over and over, hoping to reach someone like her before it's too late. Not all transformations happen with dramatic fanfare. Some are quieter, like Mr. Patel, a 78-year-old retired teacher who came in simply because, as he put it, "my feet feel far away from me." He hadn't fallen, hadn't fainted, but he knew something was off. We caught the deficiency early. He began morning walks barefoot on the grass, a practice from his childhood in India. He added fortified yogurt and almonds to his breakfast. He began sleeping better. And one day he came in smiling and said, "I don't feel distant from my own body anymore." That stayed with me. Sometimes healing isn't about fixing. It's about reconnecting. And I can't forget Maria, a grandmother of 6, proud, resilient, full of laughter. She was fiercely active in her community until she started having what she called hesitation moments. She'd reach for something and feel unsure. She'd stand up and sit back down again. Her family noticed, but she kept brushing it off. "Just tired," she'd say. But we checked. Low vitamin D, magnesium borderline. Within weeks of adjusting her supplements and incorporating magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens and pumpkin seeds, her energy lifted. But more than that, her confidence returned. "I feel like myself again," she told me, "like the Maria I used to be before I started second-guessing my body." These stories are not about miracles, they're about moments. Moments where information, compassion, and simple choices intersect to shift the trajectory of someone's later years. They are about honoring the body, even when it ages, about restoring what can be restored, accepting what cannot, and empowering people, especially elders, to take back the parts of their life they thought were gone. What I've learned again and again is that aging doesn't steal our strength overnight. It chips away quietly, often in places we aren't taught to look. And sometimes, all it takes to hold the line is a single intervention, a bit of sunlight, a daily supplement, a new awareness. So now, my dear friend, as we come to the quiet close of this conversation, I want to offer you something more than information. I want to offer you a reminder, simple and steady: you are not powerless. Not against the passing of time, not against the slow and quiet changes that come with age, and certainly not against the weariness that sometimes settles into our bones. While we cannot turn back the clock, we are not merely passengers in the story of our aging. We are still the authors of how we live these chapters. You may not realize it yet, but the smallest choices you make from this day forward can reshape the days ahead. A few moments in the sun, a small white capsule with your morning tea, a deeper breath, a meal made with care. These are not trivial habits. They are acts of reclamation. Because this isn't just about a vitamin. It's about being able to rise from your chair without hesitation. It's about walking to the kitchen on your own terms. It's about reaching for the doorknob not with fear, but with ease. I have seen it time and again. When an elder begins to believe in the strength that still lives within them, something changes. The light in the eyes returns. The shoulders lift. The steps, once cautious, become confident again. And so I say to you now, not with urgency, but with quiet conviction, take this knowledge into your hands and let it serve you. Let it be a turning point. Let it be the reason you feel strong again. Walk into the sun. Open your window. Eat with intention. Take your supplements faithfully. Ask your doctor the questions you were afraid to ask, because your strength is not behind you, it is still with you, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be nourished. And if you walk with care, not haste, if you walk in companionship with your body instead of against it, then aging will not be something to endure, it will become something to honor, something to embrace. And in that embrace, I hope you find not just strength, but peace.